Hello everyone, and welcome back to my side of the underworld. Today we'll be doing things a little different. Until further ado, let's get back to the podcast. Welcome to my channel. If you love your true crime dark, a little messy, and proudly queer, you're in the right place. And while you're here, be a dear. Hit that like and subscribe button and share it with someone who also lives for the drama. This is LGBT. Let's get back to talking. I'm Nico. Around here, we tell stories about queer lives. The ones that ended in headlines. Or never made it that far. Some were victims. Some were villains. Most were complicated. And tonight, we're talking about silence. Not the kind that's peaceful, the kind that happens when people aren't listened to. When warnings are missed, when certain lives are treated as less urgent. This is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. But more importantly, this is the story of the people he took, in the systems that failed them. So, pour a drink, take a breath. Let's get back to talking. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21st, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His early life has been widely analyzed, sometimes excessively. So here's what'll keep us grounded. His parents, Lionel and Joyce Dahmer, had a turbulent relationship. The family moved frequently. Dahmer later reported feeling isolated and disconnected. Accounts from his adolescence describe increasing withdrawal, alcohol use beginning in his early teenage years, a fascination with dead animals, particularly in bones. These details are often presented as early warning signs, but it's important to say this clearly. Many people experience instability, isolation, or intrusive thoughts and do not become violent or act on those thoughts. There is no clear line that explains what Dahmer became. In 1978, shortly after graduating high school, Dahmer committed his first known murder. The victim was Stephen Hicks, an 18-year-old hitchhiker. According to Dahmer's later confession, he picked Hicks up and brought him to his family home. After Hicks indicated he wanted to leave, Dahmer killed him. Dahmer later dismembered the body and disposed of the remains. This crime went undetected. There was no arrest. No immediate investigation tying back to him, and for years, it remained hidden. Throughout the late 1970s and 80s, Dahmer's life followed a pattern. Periods of instability, arrests for nonviolent offenses, and attempts at maintaining work and routine. In 1982, he was arrested for indecent exposure. In 1986, another similar charge. These incidents placed him on law enforcement's radar, but not in a way that prevented escalation. Between 1987 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 16 additional victims, primarily in Milwaukee. Many of the men and boys he targeted were young, Black, Latino, or Asian, and part of a marginalized community, including LGBTQ spaces. He met victims in bars, bus stops, and public spaces, often offering them money in exchange for photographs. From here, the pattern became consistent. He would bring victims to his apartment, drug, and then kill them. We are not going into further detail than that, because at a certain point, describing method becomes spectacle, and that is not the purpose of this episode. In May 1991, a 14-year-old boy named Kinnerak Synthesomphone was found by bystanders, disoriented and in distress. Police were called. According to reports, witnesses expressed concern for the boy's safety. Dahmer told officers it was a domestic situation. The officers returned Kinnerak to Dahmer's apartment. That night, Kinnerak Synthesomphone was killed. This moment is one of the most widely cited failures in the case. Not because it was complicated, but because it wasn't. Two officers, responding to a vulnerable child, chose not to intervene further. The reasons discussed later include misjudgment, bias, and a reluctance to engage in what they perceived as a private matter. The officers were later dismissed and then, disgustingly, reinstated. Imagine how often this happens to this day. On July 22nd, 1991, Dahmer encountered Tracy Edwards. Edwards was able to escape. He flagged down police. And when officers entered Dahmer's apartment, they discovered photographs of dismembered bodies and human remains. Dahmer was arrested, and the truth, long hidden, began to surface. Dahmer's trial began in January 1992. Dahmer pleaded guilty, but insane. The central legal question was not whether he committed the crimes, but whether he could be held criminally responsible. The jury rejected the insanity defense, as they should. He was found guilty on 15 accounts of murder. A 16th conviction was added later for the first killing in Ohio. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms. This is the part that matters most. These are the names of the people whose lives were taken. Stephen Hicks, 18 years old. Stephen Tuomi, 24. James Doxtator, 14 years old. Richard Guerrero, 25 years old. Anthony Sears, 24 years old. Eddie Smith, 28 years old. Ricky Beeks, 33 years old. Ernest Miller, 22 years old. David Thomas, 23 years old. Curtis Straughter, 18 years old. Errol Lindsay, 19 years old. Tony Hughes, 31 years old. Kinnerak Synthesomphone, 14 years old. Matt Turner, 20 years old. Jeremiah Weinberger, 23 years old. Oliver Lacey, 24 years old. And Joseph Brandhoft, 25 years old. Take a second. These are not statistics. They were sons, friends, members of communities that often weren't protected. And for many of them, their disappearances did not receive the urgency they deserved. After sentencing, Dahmer was incarcerated at the Columbia Correctional Institution. On November 28th, 1994, he was killed by another inmate. His death closed the legal chapter, but not the cultural one. The Dahmer case continues to resurface in media, documentaries, and dramatizations. And each time, the same question comes up. Who is this story really about? Because when the focus shifts too heavily onto the perpetrator, the victims disappear again. And that is another kind of silence. There were multiple points where this could have ended differently. When early offenses occurred, when people raised concern, when Kinnerak synthesophone was returned to danger, those moments matter because they show that this wasn't just one man acting alone. It was also a system that failed to recognize who needed protection. You've been listening to LGBT. Let's get back to talking. I'm Nico, your host, your narrator, your slightly too interested gay friend with a microphone. And every week, we dig into queer lives brushed out of the margins. The victims, the villains, and the beautifully complicated ones who lived in between. If you liked tonight's story, go ahead and follow, subscribe, and leave a comment. Or just whisper sweet nothings into the void. I hear everything. Until next time, pour a drink, take a breath. Let's get back to talking.